You step out into your summer garden, full of anticipation. You're ready to harvest that crisp lettuce, those tender spinach leaves, or that fragrant cilantro. But then you see it, a tall, skinny stalk shooting straight up from the center of your plant. Tiny buds forming, leaves looking a little leggy. Your heart sinks. Your beautiful greens are bolting. It's the gardener's summer heartbreak, a race against time and temperature. But don't despair. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to hit the brakes on bolting, salvage what you can, and even turn this problem into a future harvest. We'll cover the immediate fixes, the long-term strategies, and yes, even how to make those slightly bitter leaves delicious. Bolting is a plant's natural response to stress, specifically the stress of summer. For cool-season crops like lettuce, spinach, and cilantro, their entire life's mission is to grow leaves, reproduce, and then die. When the days get longer and hotter, their internal clock screams, it's time to make seeds. They switch from vegetative growth, making delicious leaves, to reproductive growth. That means sending up a flower stalk, blooming, and setting seed. It's a survival mechanism, but it's the last thing we want when we're craving a fresh salad. The moment you see that central stalk elongating, that's your first warning. For lettuce, it's often a sudden upward stretch, almost like it's trying to reach for the sky. Spinach will send up a rigid, often reddish stem. Cilantro, notorious for bolting, will quickly develop feathery, dill-like leaves and a tall, thin stalk topped with tiny white flowers. The problem? As the plant shifts its energy to producing flowers and seeds, the leaves change. They become tougher, often smaller, and most noticeably, they develop a bitter flavor. This bitterness is due to an increase in compounds called sesquiterpene lactones, which are a plant's natural defense mechanism. They're saying, "Don't eat me, I'm busy making babies." So, what's the immediate, urgent action you can take right now? First, give your plants some shade. If you have a portable shade cloth, drape it over them, aiming for about 30 to 50% shade. Even an old bedsheet or a piece of cardboard propped up can offer temporary relief. Direct sun in the afternoon is the biggest culprit for overheating the soil and the plant itself. Second, water deeply and consistently. Bolting is often triggered by perceived drought stress, even if the soil isn't bone dry. A good long drink in the early morning can cool the root zone and signal to the plant that conditions are still favorable for leaf production. Aim for at least an inch of water per week, more in scorching heat. Third, harvest immediately. Don't wait. If you see that stalk, start picking the outer, lower leaves that still look good. You might get one last decent harvest before the bitterness fully sets in. Now, let's talk about slowing it down, because sometimes you catch it early enough to buy yourself a little more time. The key here is to trick the plant into thinking it's still spring. My number one trick is strategic shading. For raised beds or containers, I often use simple PVC hoops and a piece of 30% shade cloth. You can find this at most garden centers or online. Just clip it on during the hottest part of the day, typically from noon to 4 p.m., and remove it in the evening. This can drop the leaf temperature by 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, which is often enough to delay bolting for another week or two. For in-ground gardens, consider planting taller crops like tomatoes or corn to the west of your greens, providing natural afternoon shade as they grow. This companion planting strategy not only helps with bolting but also maximizes your garden space. Another critical factor is consistent soil moisture. I can't stress this enough. Inconsistent watering is a huge stressor. A drip irrigation system or soaker hoses are fantastic for this, delivering water slowly and directly to the root zone, minimizing evaporation. If you're hand watering, do it slowly and deeply. A quick sprinkle just wets the surface and encourages shallow roots, making plants more susceptible to heat stress. I like to water until I see water seeping from the bottom of my raised beds or containers. This ensures the entire root ball is saturated. Mulch is your unsung hero here. A 2 to 4 inch layer of organic mulch, like straw, shredded leaves, or wood chips, around your plants will do wonders. It insulates the soil, keeping it cooler in the heat and retaining moisture. This means less watering for you and a more stable environment for your plants. Plus, it suppresses weeds, which compete for those precious resources. I've seen mulch extend the life of my spring lettuce by several weeks in Zone 7. Even when temperatures push into the 90s. Variety selection is also paramount, and this is where a little planning goes a long way. Some varieties are simply bred to be more heat-tolerant and slow-bolting. For lettuce, look for summer crisp or heat-tolerant types like Nevada or Mascara. Romaine varieties like Paris Island Cos also tend to handle heat better than delicate butterheads. For spinach, seek out Thai or Bloomsdale long-standing. And for cilantro, slow bolt is not just a catchy name, it actually works better in warmer conditions. Always check the seed packet for descriptions like slow to bolt or heat resistant. Don't try to grow your favorite spring butterhead in July in Zone 8, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Now, let's talk about the point of no return. When is it too late? Once the flower stalk is truly established and the flowers begin to open, the leaves will be significantly bitter. You can still taste a leaf to be sure. If it's overwhelmingly bitter, it's likely past its prime for fresh eating. However, even at this stage, those leaves aren't entirely useless. What can you do with bolted leaves? Don't throw them out. For lettuce and spinach, even if they're a bit bitter, they can be cooked. Bitterness often mellows with heat. Think stir-fries, sautéed greens, or adding them to soups and stews. They'll add a nutritional boost and a slightly peppery flavor. I often chop them finely and add them to scrambled eggs or a frittata. For cilantro, the flavor becomes much stronger and more pungent when it bolts, and the texture changes. But it can still be used in cooked dishes where its strong flavor can stand up, like curries or chili. You can also make a pesto with bolted cilantro, adding plenty of garlic, nuts, and cheese to balance the strong flavor. Another option for both lettuce and spinach is to blend them into green smoothies. The sweetness of fruits like banana or apple, along with other greens like kale, can mask any bitterness. You're still getting all those vitamins and minerals. And here's a secret that many experienced gardeners embrace: seed saving. If you have an open pollinated variety and you're not growing anything else nearby that could cross-pollinate, let a few of your bolted plants go to seed. It's a fantastic way to get free seeds for next season. For lettuce, the tiny yellow flowers will form fluffy seed heads, much like dandelions. Once they dry and turn brown, you can rub them between your hands to release the seeds. For cilantro, the flowers will produce small, round seeds that are actually coriander. Just let them dry on the plant until they easily rub off. Collect them on a dry, non-windy day, let them dry completely indoors for a few days. And store them in a cool, dark place. You've just turned a bolting problem into a self-sustaining seed bank. Let's touch on some common mistakes I've made over the years, and I see other gardeners make too. The biggest one is planting too late in the spring or too early in the summer. If you're in zone 6 or 7, trying to grow lettuce in June without any shade is a recipe for bolting. Another mistake is inconsistent watering. I remember one season when I got busy and skipped a few days of watering during a heat wave. My entire bed of black seed Simpson lettuce bolted overnight. It was a harsh lesson. And ignoring the early signs. That little stretch, that slight change in leaf shape, those are your cues. Don't wait until the plant is a foot tall with flowers blooming. By then, it's too late to salvage much for fresh eating. Finally, planting the wrong varieties for your climate. As I mentioned, if you live in a hot region, opt for those slow-bolting, heat-tolerant varieties. Don't try to force a cool-season crop to thrive in conditions it hates. So, how do we prevent this heartbreak next season? It comes down to smart planning and season extension. The ultimate strategy for continuous harvests of cool-season greens is succession planting. Instead of planting all your lettuce or spinach at once, sow small batches every 2 to 3 weeks. This way, as one batch bolts, another is ready to harvest, and a third is just getting started. For example, in Zone 5, I start my first lettuce seeds indoors in late February, transplant in April. And then direct sell small batches every 2 weeks until early June. I take a break during the peak summer heat, then start again in late August for a fall harvest.
Consider using season extension tools.
Low tunnels or cold frames, typically used to extend the season into colder months, can also be adapted for summer. By covering them with shade cloth instead of clear plastic, you create a mini climate that's cooler and more protected from intense sun. This is particularly effective for container gardens or small raised beds. For larger areas, a simple hoop house structure covered with shade cloth can provide significant relief. Another insider technique that experienced growers swear by, but often isn't in beginner books, is understanding your garden's microclimates. Pay attention to where the sun hits hardest, where it's shadiest, and where water tends to collect or drain away. For example, the north side of your house or a tall fence might offer natural afternoon shade, making it an ideal spot for a late spring or early summer planting of greens. Conversely, a south-facing, exposed bed will be the first to bolt. Use these natural variations to your advantage. I have a small patch on the east side of my shed that gets morning sun but is shaded by noon. And that's where I get my longest-lasting spring lettuce. Finally, soil health plays a huge role. Healthy, living soil with plenty of organic matter retains moisture better and provides a more stable environment for roots. This makes plants more resilient to stress. Regular additions of compost, organic fertilizers, and avoiding compaction will build a robust soil structure that helps buffer against temperature extremes. A healthy plant in healthy soil is always more resistant to bolting than a struggling one. So, to recap, if you see that stalk, don't panic. First, provide immediate shade and a deep drink of water. Harvest any good leaves right away. To slow it down, implement consistent deep watering, a good layer of mulch, and strategic shade cloth. For future harvests, choose slow bolting varieties, practice succession planting every few weeks, and utilize your garden's microclimates. And remember, even bolted leaves have a place in your kitchen, and those flowers can give you free seeds for next year. Bolting isn't the end, it's just a new phase in your garden story. Have you ever successfully stopped a plant from bolting, or found a clever way to use bolted greens? Share your tips and your USDA zone in the comments below. I love hearing what works in different climates. If you found this guide helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to join our growing gardening community. Next week, we're diving into the secrets of maximizing your tomato harvest, even in a small space. So you won't want to miss that. Happy gardening, and may your salads stay